The space station called 7 floated in the darkness between stars. It was not a nice place. It was the kind of place where people came to do bad things, where laws did not exist, and where money could buy anything, even a life. Danny Cole never planned to visit this station. He was just a simple cargo hauler, a man who moved supplies from one planet to another in his old ship called the Wanderer. But his engine had failed 3 days ago, and this station was the only place close enough to find parts. He walked through the dirty corridors of the station's lower levels. The air smelled bad, like rust and something rotten. Strange aliens of many species pushed past him, not caring if they knocked into him. Danny kept his head down and looked for the parts shop he needed. Then he heard the screaming. It came from a large open area to his left. Danny knew he should keep walking. He knew that getting involved in trouble on a station like this was a good way to die, but something pulled him toward the sound. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was something else. He stepped through a doorway and found himself in a crowded room. Hundreds of aliens stood in rows, all facing a raised platform at the front. On that platform stood cages. Inside those cages were people, living beings of different species, all of them chained, all of them for sale. Danny felt sick. He had heard stories about slave markets in the Outer Rim, but he had never seen one with his own eyes. On Earth, slavery had been illegal for centuries. The idea of owning another person was disgusting to him. A large reptilian alien stood on the platform, speaking in a loud voice. He was a species known throughout the galaxy for their cruelty. His scales were dark green, and his eyes were yellow with black slits. He smiled as he pointed to the cages, showing sharp teeth. "Come, come, my friends," the reptilian said. His name was, and he was the master of this auction. "We have fine specimens today, strong workers, beautiful companions. Whatever you desire, we have it." Danny watched as aliens bid on other aliens. Some of the captives cried. Some begged. Some had given up and simply stared at nothing. One by one, they were sold and dragged away by their new owners. Then pointed to a cage at the end of the row. And now something special, a female. The crowd murmured. Danny had never heard of the before. He moved closer to see. Inside the small cage was a woman. At least she looked like a woman to Danny's human eyes. Her skin was pale silver, almost like moonlight. Her hair was white and fell past her thin shoulders. She was small and fragile, her body showing the marks of years of poor treatment. Heavy iron chains wrapped around her wrists, and the skin beneath them was raw and bloody. But it was her eyes that Danny could not forget. They were large and dark purple, and they held no light in them. No hope, no anger, nothing at all. She stared at the floor as if she had already died inside and was just waiting for her body to follow. "They are a weak species," said, laughing. "Too fragile for hard work, too boring for entertainment. This one has been in the system for 15 years. Many owners. None of them wanted to keep her." He kicked the cage, and the woman inside did not even flinch. "She is broken, completely broken. I sell her as she is. Starting bid at 50 credits. The crowd was silent. No one raised a hand. Waited, his smile fatting. 40 credits, come on, 30. Someone give me 30 credits for this creature." Still nothing. The aliens in the crowd looked at the silver woman with disgust or pity, but none of them wanted her. Sighed dramatically. "Fine. No one wants damaged goods. I will send her to waste disposal. Next item." Danny's heart stopped. Waste disposal. They were going to throw her away like garbage because no one wanted to buy her. The woman in the cage did not react. She had probably accepted death long ago. Danny did not know why he did what he did next. He did not think about it. His body moved before his mind could stop it. He pushed through the crowd and raised his hand. "Wait," he called out. Every eye in the room turned to him, looked at the human with surprise and amusement. "The human speaks," said. "Do you wish to bid on the creature?" "I do," Danny said. His voice was steady even though his heart was pounding. Laughed with what? Humans are not known for their wealth. Danny reached into his jacket and pulled out a small object. It was a pocket watch made of gold, with delicate engravings on its surface. It had belonged to his mother and her mother before that. It was over 200 years old, one of the few antique Earth relics that had survived the journey to the stars. To collectors, it was worth a fortune. This, Danny said, holding it up. The crowd gasped. Evan's yellow eyes went wide with greed. He stepped down from the platform and examined the watch closely. An Earth antique, he whispered. Genuine. This is worth more than everything else I sell today combined. Then we have a deal, Danny said. Studied the human for a moment. Then he laughed again, a cruel sound that echoed through the room. You are a fool, human. You trade a treasure for worthless trash, but I accept. He snatched the watch from Danny's hand and tossed him a small key. She is yours. Take her and go before I change my mind. Danny walked to the cage. His hands were shaking as he unlocked the door. The chains around the woman's wrists were next. One by one, he removed them, being careful not to hurt her damaged skin. The silver woman did not move. She did not look at him. She seemed confused, like she did not understand what was happening. Danny knelt down so that his eyes were level with hers. He spoke softly, gently, the way one might speak to a frightened animal. Hey, he said. My name is Danny. I am not going to hurt you. You are free now. Do you understand? You are free. For the first time in many years, the woman looked up. Her purple eyes met his brown ones. She searched his face for lies, for tricks, for hidden cruelty. She had learned long ago that kindness always came with a price. But she found nothing in Danny's eyes except warmth. Come with me, he said, offering his hand. Let me take you somewhere safe. She did not take his hand. She was not ready for that yet. But she stood on weak legs and followed him out of the auction hall, away from the laughing crowd, away from the cages and chains. Behind them, watched them go, still holding the golden watch. He was already planning. A human who would trade such a treasure for a worthless slave was either very stupid or very dangerous. Either way, wanted to know more. Danny did not look back. He walked slowly so the woman could keep up, guiding her through the station's corridors toward his ship. He did not know what he was going to do next. He did not have a plan. All he knew was that he could not leave her there to die. And somehow in that dark and terrible place, a small light had begun to flicker. A light called hope. The ship was small and old, but it was clean. Danny had taken good care of the wanderer over the years. It was not much, but it was home. He led the silver woman through the narrow corridors to the sleeping area. There was only one bed, a simple mattress attached to the wall. He pointed to it. You can sleep here, he said. I will sleep on the floor in the cockpit. There is a bathroom through that door. The water works, but it takes a minute to get warm. The woman stood in the middle of the room, her arms wrapped around herself. She was looking at everything with wide eyes, like she expected danger to come from any corner. Her body was tense, ready to run or fight, even though Danny knew she was too weak to do either. Danny kept his distance. He understood that she was afraid. After what she had been through, he would be afraid too. Are you hungry? He asked. She did not answer. He was not sure if she could not speak or if she simply chose not to. I will bring you some food, he said. It is not great food, but it is better than nothing. Please rest. You are safe here. He left the room and closed the door behind him. In the small kitchen area, he prepared 2 bowls of protein paste and dried vegetables. It was boring food, the kind that travelers ate when fresh supplies were hard to find. But it would fill the stomach and keep the body alive. When he returned, the woman had not moved. She was still standing in the same spot, watching the door with fearful eyes. Danny placed 1 bowl on the small table and sat down on the floor with his own bowl. He did not offer her the food directly. He simply ate his own meal and waited. For a long time she did not move. Then very slowly she walked to the table, She picked up the bowl and looked at it with suspicion. She smelled it. Finally, she took a small bite. She ate the rest very quickly, like she was afraid someone would take it away from her. Danny pretended not to notice. When she was done, he took both bowls and washed them. Then he said good night and went to the cockpit to sleep. This became their routine for the next several days. Danny worked on repairing his engine during the day. He talked to himself while he worked, a habit he had developed from spending so much time alone in space. He hummed old songs that his father used to sing. He did not try to make the woman talk. He did not ask her questions. He simply existed near her, showing her through his actions that he was not a threat. Every meal he shared equally with her, even though he could have taken more for himself. Every night he gave her the bed and slept on the hard floor. When she used too much water in the shower, he did not complain. When she accidentally broke a cup, he told her it was okay and cleaned up the pieces himself. The woman watched everything he did. She was trying to understand him, Danny knew. She was looking for the trick, the trap, the moment when he would show his true nature and hurt her. She had been hurt so many times before. Kindness was something she did not trust. On the fifth night, Danny heard a sound from the sleeping area. It was soft, barely there. He got up from his spot on the cockpit floor and walked quietly to the door. It was open just a crack, and through it he could see the woman sitting in the corner of the room. Her knees were pulled up to her chest, and her shoulders were shaking. She was crying. Danny thought about walking away. Maybe she wanted to be alone. Maybe his presence would make things worse, but something told him to stay. He pushed the door open gently and stepped inside. The woman looked up, her purple eyes wet with tears. Fear crossed her face for a moment, then faded when she saw that he was not angry. Danny sat down on the floor a few feet away from her. He did not reach for her. He did not try to touch her. He just sat there, quiet and calm. "You do not have to talk about it," he said. "But if you want to, I will listen. And if you just want to sit here in silence, that is okay too." For a long moment, there was only the sound of her breathing and the hum of the ship systems. Then, in a voice that was rough from years of not being used, she spoke. "Why?" It was just one word, but it carried the weight of 1,000 questions. "Why did you save me? Why are you being kind? Why do you not treat me like everyone else?" Danny thought about his answer. He wanted to give her the truth. "Because it was the right thing to do," he said. "Because where I come from, we believe that every person has value, every life matters. You are not a thing to be bought and sold. You are a person, and you deserve to be treated like one." The woman stared at him, her lips trembled. "My name," she whispered, "my name is—" Danny smiled. It was the first time she had told him anything about herself. It felt like a small victory, a tiny step forward. He repeated, "That is a beautiful name." She did not smile back. She was not ready for that yet, but something in her eyes changed. A small crack appeared in the wall she had built around herself. "I was taken when I was young," she said. Her voice was still quiet, still uncertain. "My world was conquered. My people were scattered. I have been a slave for as long as I can remember. 15 years, maybe more. I do not know any more." Danny listened without interrupting. He did not show shock or pity. He just listened. "I have had many masters," continued. "Some were cruel, some were worse than cruel. I learned to be silent. I learned to be invisible. I learned that fighting back only brought more pain, so I stopped fighting. I stopped hopping. I became what they said I was, a creature, a thing, nothing." Her voice broke on the last word. More tears fell down her silver cheeks. Danny felt anger rising in his chest, but not at her, at the people who had done this to her, at the galaxy that had let it happen. He wanted to find every person who had ever hurt her and make them pay, but that would not help her now. What she needed was not revenge. She needed to heal. "You are not nothing," Danny said firmly but gently. You are strong. You survived things that would have destroyed anyone else. That takes incredible strength. And what happened to you was not your fault. None of it. Do you understand? It was never your fault. Looked at him like he had just said something impossible. In her entire life, no one had ever told her that. She had always believed that she was to blame, that she was weak, that she deserved what happened to her. I do not know how to be free, she whispered. I do not know who I am without chains. Danny nodded. He understood that freedom could be terrifying for someone who had never had it. Then we will figure it out together, he said. There is no rush. You can take all the time you need, and I will be here if you want me to be. Did not answer, but she did not tell him to leave either. So Danny stayed, sitting on the floor beside her, through the long hours of the night. And somewhere in that silence, in that small and battered ship floating in the darkness of space, a bond began to form. It was fragile like a single thread, but it was there, and it was real. By morning, had fallen asleep in the corner. Danny covered her with a blanket and went back to work on the engine. He had a lot to do and not much time to do it. But for the first time since he arrived on 7, he felt like things might actually be okay. News traveled fast on 7. Within days, everyone on the station had heard the story. A human had bought the broken female. A human had traded an Earth treasure worth a small fortune for a slave that no one else wanted. The story was strange enough to make people curious. Heard the whispers and did not like them. He sat in his private room above the auction hall, holding the golden pocket watch in his clawed hand. The more he looked at it, the angrier he became. He had been fooled. That was what everyone was saying. The great master of the 7-slave market had been tricked by a stupid human. The watch was valuable, yes, but that was not the point. His reputation was damaged. People were laughing at him. And the female. He had said she was worthless, broken beyond repair. But what if she was not? What if the human knew something that did not? What if she was worth far more than he realized? Made a decision. He would get her back, and he would make the human pay for embarrassing him. He called for his best mercenaries, a team of 5 warriors led by a fighter named. They were brutal, efficient, and completely without mercy. Find the human, ordered. Bring me the kill him if you have to, I do not care. Smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. It will be done. Danny did not know that danger was coming. He was in the supply district buying the last parts he needed for his engine. Was with him. She had asked to come, her first request since he had freed her. He could not say no. She walked close beside him, her eyes moving constantly, watching everyone and everything. She was still nervous in crowds, but she was trying to be brave. Danny was proud of her. Just a few more things, he said, and we can leave this station forever. Where do you want to go? You can choose. Thought about it. I do not know, she admitted. I have never chosen anything before. Then we will figure it out together, Danny said with a smile. The galaxy is big. There are lots of nice places. We will find one that feels like home. They turned into a narrow corridor that led back to the docking area. It was quieter here, away from the main crowds. Danny was thinking about dinner, wondering if would like the canned soup he had been saving, when he heard footsteps behind them. He turned and saw 5 blocking the corridor. They were big, armed, and looking at him with hungry eyes. At the front was his face covered in old battle scars. Danny's heart dropped. He knew immediately why they were here. Human, said, stepping forward, you have something that belongs to my master. Danny moved in front of, putting his body between her and the mercenaries. She does not belong to anyone. She is free. Laughed, free. There is no such thing as free. Everything has an owner. Everything has a price. Now step aside and I will kill you quickly. Make this difficult and I will make you suffer. Gripped Danny's arm. Her whole body was shaking. Danny, she whispered, please just let them take me. I am not worth dying for. Danny looked at her over his shoulder. His eyes were calm, determined. Yes, you are, he said. You are worth everything. He turned back to face the mercenaries. He had no weapons, no armor, no backup. He was just one human against 5 trained killers. The odds were impossible. But Danny did not move. "She is not a creature," he said, his voice steady. "She is a person, and you are not taking her." Stopped laughing. Something in the human's eyes made him uncomfortable. This was not fear. This was something else. "Kill him," ordered. The mercenaries charged forward. Danny met them head-on. He was not a trained fighter, but he was desperate, and desperate men can do incredible things. He ducked under the first swing and drove his fist into a mercenary's throat. The alien stumbled back, choking. Danny grabbed a metal pipe from the ground and swung it hard, cracking it against another attacker's skull. But there were too many of them. A clawed hand caught him across the face, leaving deep cuts. Another blow hit his ribs and he heard something crack. He fell to his knees, pain exploding through his body. They beat him. Again and again they hit him, kicked him, cut him. Danny's blood splashed across the floor. His vision blurred. Every part of his body screamed in agony. But every time he fell, he got back up. The mercenaries could not understand it. They had fought many species across the galaxy, but they had never seen anything like this. The human was broken, bleeding, barely able to stand. Yet he kept rising. He kept putting himself between them and the female. "Stay down," growled, kicking Danny in the stomach. "Stay down, you fool." Danny spat blood onto the floor. He looked up with one eye swollen shut and the other burning with defiance. "No," he said. He tried to stand again. His legs shook, his arms could barely lift, but he stood. Felt something he had not felt in a long time. Fear. Not of the human's strength, because the human was weak and dying. Fear of something else. Fear of whatever was inside this man that made him refuse to give up. Before could strike again, alarms filled the corridor. Station security drones appeared from both ends, their weapons pointed at the mercenaries. "Disperse immediately," the drones announced. "Violence in this sector is prohibited. Leave now or face detention." Looked at Danny, then at the security drones. He could fight them, but it would cause too much trouble. Would not be happy. "This is not over," hissed at Danny. "We will find you again, and next time there will be no one to save you." The mercenaries retreated, disappearing into the shadows of the station. Danny stood for one more moment, swaying on his feet. Then his legs gave out, and he collapsed onto the cold metal floor. Rushed to his side. She knelt beside him, her silver hands pressing against his wounds, trying to stop the bleeding. Tears streamed down her face. "Why?" she cried. "Why did you do that? You could have died. You almost died." Danny looked up at her. His face was a mess of blood and bruises. Breathing hurt. Everything hurt. But somehow, impossibly, he managed to smile. "Because someone had to," he whispered. Did not understand. She could not understand. In her world, no one sacrificed themselves for others. Power was everything. The strong took from the weak. That was the only law she had ever known. But this human had broken that law. He had stood against impossible odds, suffered terrible pain, and nearly died all for her. A stranger, a slave, a creature. Except she was not a creature to him. She was a person. Something changed inside at that moment. The wall around her heart, the one she had built through years of suffering, began to crack. Not just a little crack this time. A big one. She held Danny's broken body in her arms and made a silent promise. She would never forget what he had done for her. And somehow, someday, she would find a way to repay him. Station medical teams arrived and took Danny away. Followed, refusing to leave his side. She held his hand the entire way, her silver fingers wrapped around his bloody ones. And in the darkness of that terrible station, in the middle of all that pain and violence, something beautiful had been born. A friendship forged in fire. Danny lay in the ship's medical bed for 2 weeks. He had 4 broken ribs, a fractured arm, and more cuts and bruises than he could count. The station's medical team had done what they could, but full recovery would take time. did not leave his side. She learned how to change his bandages by watching the medical videos on the ship's computer. She learned how to prepare the healing medicine and how to check his vital signs. When Danny tried to get up too soon, she gently pushed him back down and told him to rest. When he complained about being bored, she sat beside him and listened to his stories about Earth, about his family, about the places he had seen in his travels across the galaxy. For the first time in her life felt useful, not as a slave, not as property, but as a person who was helping someone she cared about. It was a strange feeling, a good feeling. Danny watched her grow stronger every day. The hollow look in her eyes was fading. She spoke more often now, asking questions, sharing her thoughts. She even laughed once, a small and quiet sound, when Danny told her a silly joke about a space chicken. It was the most beautiful sound he had ever heard. "You are different," Danny said one evening, as she brought him a bowl of soup. Sat on the edge of his bed. "Different how?" "Stronger, more confident. You hold your head higher now." She thought about his words. "I feel different," she admitted. "When I was in that cage, I thought I was nothing. I thought my life did not matter, but you showed me that I was wrong." "I did not show you anything," Danny said. "I just gave you a chance. You did the rest yourself." Shook her head. "No, you did more than give me a chance. You bled for me. You almost died for me. No one has ever done that before." She paused, her purple eyes meeting his. "I do not know how to repay you." Danny smiled. "You do not have to repay me. That is not why I did it." "Then why?" It was the same question she had asked him before, in the corridor after the fight. Why would a stranger risk everything for her? Danny thought carefully before answering. Humans have a saying. It goes like this: the measure of a person is not in what they do for themselves, but in what they do for others. My mother taught me that when I was young. She said that kindness is the most powerful force in the universe, more powerful than weapons, more powerful than money, more powerful than fear. "Do all humans believe this?" asked. "Not all, but many. We are not perfect. We have done terrible things in our history, but we also have the ability to do great things, to help those who cannot help themselves, to stand up against injustice even when it is dangerous." He reached out and took her hand. "You deserve to be saved, not because of what you can do or what you are worth, just because you are alive. That is enough." Felt tears forming in her eyes, but they were not tears of sadness. They were something else, something warmer. As Danny recovered, he began teaching new skills. He showed her how to read star charts and navigate between systems. He taught her the basics of piloting the Wanderer. He explained how the engine worked and let her help with simple repairs. Learned quickly. Her mind was sharp, and she had a natural talent for understanding complex systems. Years of survival had taught her to observe, to analyze, to adapt. Now she was using those skills for something positive. "You are a fast learner," Danny said, watching her plot a course through an asteroid field. "I had a good teacher," she replied. Word of what happened on 7 had spread beyond the station. Traders and travelers carried the story to other worlds. A human had stood alone against slavers to protect a species the galaxy had abandoned. He had nearly died but refused to give up. It was a story that captured attention. Other humans on nearby stations heard the news and felt proud. They did not know Danny personally, but his actions represented something good about their species. Messages of support began arriving at the Wanderer, from human traders, from human colonists, from human soldiers serving on distant outposts. But the story reached others too. Scattered across the galaxy, hidden in refugee camps and servant quarters and forgotten corners, the surviving heard whispers of what happened. One of their own had been saved. One of their own had been told that she mattered. For the first time in generations, they felt something they had almost forgotten: hope. Also heard the stories, and they made him furious. His reputation had suffered badly. Other slave traders were mocking him. His business was declining because people saw him as weak. He placed a large bounty on Danny's head and announced that he would personally destroy anyone who helped the human. And his mercenaries were hunting them. It was only a matter of time before they found the Wanderer. Danny knew they needed to run. The engine was repaired now. They could leave Seven and disappear into the vastness of space. They could find a quiet world somewhere, change their names, and live in peace. He presented this plan to One Night, as they sat in the cockpit watching the stars. "We can run," he said. "We can hide. There is a small colony in the system. It is peaceful there. No one would find us." Was quiet for a long moment. Then she shook her head. "No," she said. Danny looked at her with surprise. "No." "You taught me that I am not a creature," said. Her voice was steady, stronger than he had ever heard it. "You showed me that I have value, that my life matters, and now I want to show others the same thing." She turned to face him, her purple eyes burning with determination. "Back in that auction hall there are others like me, prisoners, slaves, beings who have been told that they are nothing. They need to know that they are wrong. They need to be freed just like I was freed." Danny stared at her. "That is incredibly dangerous. Has an army. We are just two people." "Then we find more people," said. "We build our own army. We fight back." "We could die." "We could," she agreed. "But some things are worth dying for. You taught me that too." Danny was silent for a long time. He looked at the woman sitting beside him and he barely recognized her. She was not the broken, hollow creature he had found in that cage. She was something else now, something powerful. She was free, truly free, not just in body but in spirit. And she wanted to share that freedom with others. Danny smiled. It was a tired smile and a little bit scared but also proud. "Okay," he said, "let us do it. Let us build an army and take down." Smiled back. It was the first real smile she had given him, and it lit up her silver face like sunlight. "Thank you, Danny," she said. "For what?" "For believing in me, for helping me find myself." Danny shook his head. "I told you before, you did that yourself. I just opened the door, you walked through it." They sat together in the cockpit, watching the stars spin slowly around them. Tomorrow they would begin planning. Tomorrow they would start reaching out to others who might help their cause. Tomorrow the real fight would begin. But tonight they simply sat together, two unlikely friends at the edge of the galaxy, dreaming of a better universe. And somewhere in the darkness of space, that dream was starting to feel possible. Building an army was not easy, but it was not impossible either. Danny spent weeks traveling to nearby stations and colonies, spreading their message and looking for allies. They found them in unexpected places. A group of human traders who hated what represented. A former soldier named who had lost his family to slavers and wanted revenge. A refugee named Myra who had escaped captivity years ago and had been waiting for a chance to fight back. A pair of mechanics named Lucy and Ben who could fix anything with enough spare parts and determination. One by one, their small team grew. They were not professional soldiers. They were ordinary people who had seen too much suffering and wanted to do something about it. What they lacked in training, they made up for in heart. Became their voice. She spoke to other survivors, sharing her story, telling them that they did not have to accept their fate. She spoke with a fire that surprised even Danny. The broken woman from the cage was gone, replaced by a leader who inspired hope wherever she went. Danny became their planner. He studied operation, learned his schedules, identified his weaknesses. The auction house on 7 was well defended, but it was not perfect. There were gaps in security. There were moments when the guards changed shifts. There were opportunities for those brave enough to take them. When they were finally ready, their little army numbered 23 fighters. It was not much against forces, which included at least 50 armed mercenaries. But sometimes, the size of the army matters less than the fire in their hearts. They arrived at 7 on a quiet night, their ships docking at different points around the station to avoid suspicion. Danny, and led the main team toward the auction house. Lucy and Ben handled communications. Myra led a second group that would free the prisoners while the others created a distraction. The corridors of 7 were just as dark and dirty as Danny remembered. The smell of rust and desperation filled the air. But this time, he was not alone. This time, he was not helpless. They reached the auction hall just as the night guards were changing shifts. It was the moment Danny had been waiting for. He gave the signal. The attack began. Danny's team burst through the main entrance, weapons ready. The surprised guards barely had time to react before they were overwhelmed. Moved like a storm, his military training showing in every precise movement. Fought beside him, her fear transformed into fierce determination. Alarms screamed throughout the building. More guards came running and the battle spread through the corridors. It was chaos, violent and terrifying. Danny took a hit to his shoulder but kept fighting. He had promised himself that he would see this through no matter what. In the lower levels, Myra's team reached the cages. Dozens of prisoners stared out through the bars with confused and frightened eyes. They did not understand what was happening. Myra spoke to them in a calm voice. "We are here to free you. Do not be afraid. Come with us and you will never be slaves again." She began unlocking the cages one by one. Some of the prisoners ran immediately, desperate to escape. Others hesitated, too broken to believe that freedom was real. Myra took their hands and guided them gently, whispering words of comfort in languages from across the galaxy. Above, the fighting continued. The mercenaries were skilled, but Danny's team fought with something stronger than training. They fought with purpose. Every blow was struck for the innocent lives that had been destroyed in this place. Every shot was fired for the families that had been torn apart. Danny pushed deeper into the building, searching for. He found him in the main auction hall, the same place where it had been displayed for sale. The reptilian slaver stood on the platform, surrounded by his best guards, including Human hissed, his yellow eyes burning with hatred. "You have caused me a great deal of trouble." "Good," Danny said. "You deserve worse." Laughed. "Do you think you can stop me? I have been running this operation for decades. I have connections across the galaxy. Even if you kill me tonight, another will take my place. The slave trade will never end." "Maybe not," Danny admitted, "but we will never stop fighting it either." Stepped up beside Danny. She looked at without fear, without the hollow emptiness that had once filled her eyes. She stood tall and proud. Stared at her. "You," he spat, "the broken one, I should have thrown you in the waste disposal when I had the chance." "You called me broken," said. Her voice was steady, ringing through the hall. "You called me worthless. You said I was nothing but a creature, but you were wrong." She took another step forward. "I was never broken. I was only waiting for someone to show me that I was still whole, and now I am going to show others the same thing." Snarled and ordered his guards to attack. The final battle exploded across the auction hall. Danny and fought side by side, pushing back the mercenaries. Faced, the warrior who had nearly killed Danny weeks ago. Was bigger and stronger but was faster. She dodged his clumsy swings and struck with precision, using the fighting techniques Danny had taught her. When stumbled, she did not hesitate. She finished him with a single blow. The remaining guards saw their leader fall and began to retreat. Now alone on his platform, looked around with panic in his eyes. Danny climbed the platform and stood before the slaver, fell to his knees, begging for mercy. "Please," whimpered, "I will give you anything, money, ships, whatever you want." Danny looked down at the creature who had caused so much pain to so many innocent lives. He thought about all the people who had suffered in this place. He thought about, chained and displayed like an animal. Then he stepped back. "I am not going to kill you," Danny said. "That would make me like you." Looked confused. "Then what?" Danny smiled grimly. "The authorities have been, ships are already on their way. Your operation is finished. You will spend the rest of your life in prison answering for your crimes. Station security arrived minutes later, followed by officers from the Galactic Justice Coalition, was taken away in chains, screaming curses at Danny, and his auction house was seized. His fortune was frozen. His empire crumbled in a single night. In the aftermath, the freed prisoners were given medical care and temporary shelter. Many of them had nowhere to go, no families left, no homes to return to, but they were alive. They were free, and that was a start. News of the raid spread across the galaxy. The story of Danny Cole and became legend. A human and a working together, standing against impossible odds to save those who could not save themselves. It inspired others. It gave hope to the hopeless. Weeks later, Danny stood on the bridge of a new ship, larger than the old Wanderer. It had been donated by grateful allies who wanted to support their mission. They had named it Hope. Where to next? Danny asked. Studied the star chart. There were other operations scattered across the galaxy, other prisoners waiting to be freed, other monsters waiting to be stopped. There is a station in the sector, she said. Reports say another auction house operates there. Danny nodded. Then that is where we go. He set the course and engaged the engines. The Hope leaped into hyperspace, carrying them toward their next mission. A reporter had once asked Danny why humans seemed driven to fight for others, even strangers, even those who could not fight for themselves. Danny had thought about the question for a long time before answering. Where I come from, he had said, that is just what you do. And across the galaxy, others were beginning to understand. Humanity was not dangerous because of their weapons or their technology. Humanity was dangerous because they believed, truly and deeply, that every single life had value. And they were willing to prove it.